Oh yes, this is the Hardcore Marketing Show. I'm Casey Cheshire, your host for this epic journey. Today's show is sponsored by Ringmaster, on a mission to launch B2B podcasts that create relationships, generate revenue, and drive growth. Ringmasterlive.com. Bam. Has begun. I am excited. I can't wait to tell you about my guest today. He is awesome. Well, who is he, Casey? Well, he is a marketing leader and thought leader. He's a global brand leader, a creativity pioneer, and actually a highly accomplished artist. All these things which we hope we get into today. He is all about crafting these immersive brand experiences, and he's got a lot of experience in advertising and all sorts of facets. So let's dive in. Vice President of Global Demand Generation and Brand Marketing at Blue Jeans by Verizon. Jordan Liebman, welcome to the show, sir.
Wow. Thank you, Casey. If I ever make it as a musician or as a prize fighter, you are immediately hired as my hype man. That was fantastic. Thank you. I got to give you a round of applause for that. So thank you.
Give me a boombox and I'll be your hype man walking around like,
love
hear
it.
thee, hear thee.
Love
Here
it.
he comes.
Love it. It's a pleasure to be here. Thanks for having me, my friend.
Heck yeah. So let's do this. I'm going to hand you this thing, but I know you got this. So here it is. Okay. You got it?
All right. Got it.
Hammer.
It's sitting right here alongside my chair. Got it.
Excellent.
We have it.
Take Thor's hammer and smash for me some kind of marketing myth, bogus strategy, or misconception. Set the record straight once and for all.
Yeah, I thank you for that. You know, when you and I first met and we were talking about this, it was like, oh my God, I can go on and on about this for hours. Here's the myth that I want to go after. Consumers or customers, I kind of use the two interchangeably. So forgive me for those of you that are listening or watching and hear me go back and forth between the two. Consumers love functional product benefits. They buy your product because of what you do and what you give them. So here's the myth with that. Too often, brands communicate from the outside in. They lead with what and how. They're focused on the functional, no matter if it's a B2B brand or even a B2C brand, right? The problem is companies are using tangible features and benefits to build a rational argument for why they are better than their competition. Sometimes those comparisons are made outright. Sometimes they're metaphors, are drawn, but the effect is the same. They try to sell us on what they do. Think about any company, right? Or again, any company, B2B or B2C. Packaged goods, Bounty, the quicker picker upper, Subway, Eat Fresh, Walmart, save money, live better. It's even in technology, right? B2B or B2B technology, I should say. Oracle is enabling the information age through network computing. PayPal is the safer, easier way to pay online. Describing your product features in excruciating detail, it might be effective in some contexts, but it's rarely effective in building your brand. Your company needs to be building compounding equity over years and years. If the brand changes, you lose all your equity. Product features constantly change. So if you're building your brand on product features, that's going to change not just over years, over weeks and over months. I mean, I'm not sure if you know this, Casey, but Nokia used to sell toilet paper.
Jeez. Toilet paper?
Yeah. Microsoft used to sell CDs. It's always the brand that endures the product. But the thing is that too many companies believe that people buy their products because of their what and their how, but that's total nonsense. The reality is that most customers in reality buy why the company does it. Think about it. Human beings want to be a part of something bigger than just themselves. So it's just a natural instinct. And the most successful brands in the world know that they aren't selling a product or a laundry list of functional benefits. They're creating a connection. They're evoking an emotion. They are and they need to create an enduring relationship between their company and their customers. So brands have to get better about selling to us and not focusing on themselves. So what's the answer? You have to sell. What you sell is your purpose and your promise. I think a perfect example of this is probably Apple. Their products are right. Their products and their promise give life to their purpose. It's the reason they matter. That's contrary to conventional wisdom. Their products serve as tangible proof of why they exist. The clear correlation of what they do and why they do it is what makes them stand out. This is the reason why we perceive Apple as being one of the most sincere, authentic, original brands in the history of consumerism, right? Everything they do works to demonstrate their purpose, to challenge the status quo, regardless of the products they make or the industry in which they operate. It's always clear that Apple thinks different. They want to give people sitting at home the same power as any company. Apple's why, to challenge the status quo and to empower individuals, is a pattern in all that they do, all that they say, right? It comes to life in all of their products. Think about it: their computers, their phones. When they first introduced the iPod and the first services that they introduced with iTunes,
Right.
they could have listed exhaustive product features or descriptions. It isn't about them. It is about us, the customer, and we understand why we want it. Apple didn't invent the technology that came with an iPod, right? Nor the music format, but people credit them with transforming the music industry. Creative Technologies created that technology.
Right.
They told us what it was. Apple told us why we need it, why this is going to make our lives better. Our decisions as consumers, as customers, starts with why, and so does what Apple creates and sells. It is all about their purpose and their promise, and they have brought that to life in every single thing that they do.
Dude, so powerful. The imagery
Yeah.
of building your house on the sand of product features, like
Hmm.
how, and then how unstable that will be because you just changed the feature. You told, and if you told everyone the reason you're with us is because of this thing, and maybe
Hmm.
you deprecate that feature, or you know, there's something
Hmm.
else that's more important now. It's just so hard to build a,
Yeah.
to your point, to
Yeah.
compound a strategy. So my question back to you is, why do we do that? Why is there this knee-jerk reaction, even when I'm selling podcasting, right? There's this knee-jerk reaction to talk about the feature, some tech, the benefit. Why do we go rational when we're just all these little emotional, irrational creatures walking around?
It's easy, plain and simple. It's easy. Um, it's what most of us as marketers, I wouldn't say most of us, but unfortunately, a loud minority of marketers just gravitate toward. If you focus on product marketing, it's a recipe for bad advertising or bad advertising, right? Advertising needs to be memorable to work. It needs to be distinctive to work. Like I said before, it has to build compounding equity over years and years and years. Product features constantly change. So what we're looking for when we focus on the functional benefits is the now. We're not thinking about the future. And I think it's certainly a natural thing and it's a fair thing to focus on the now, but what you're not doing is building that long-term equity. You build the long-term equity by creating the relationship, by creating a connection. That's where it's going to work. And so again, to answer your question, the reason why there's so much more focus or so much more emphasis placed on the functional more often than the emotional is because it's easy and it's immediate. You're not thinking about what's going to happen 1 to 10 years, 20 years from now as your brand continues to evolve.
Right. It's easy, and the data is in front of you.
Mhm.
I wonder if
Right,
the hard thing would be to get in the mind of your customer and really think about
right,
serving them. But so it's so much easier just to
right.
talk about this fact sheet that you have in front of you.
Hmm. Yep, that's exactly what it is. It's much easier, and it's a given, right? Like you said, it's right there in front of you. If you're not, I think it also takes more time to build the emotional connection and to create that relationship. You really need to understand who your customers are, what their mindset is, what they're thinking about, how these products make them feel, or for that matter, as a B2B decision maker, what's on the line here? Is it millions of dollars? Is it my reputation? Is it my peers' perception and my manager's perception of me? There's just of an emotional decision involved in B2B purchasing as there is in B2C purchasing. So why not go ahead and bring that emotional that emotional benefit, that emotional connection into your marketing efforts?
How do we do that? What's the best
I don't
way
know.
to get out of our heads, get into our hearts?
I think it's a few things, right? So, we talked about like what are the 4 to 5 things to think about. I think the first thing is our role as marketers, right? It's a mistake to think that our role, especially as brand marketers, is simply to promote our brand or products in the most marketable way, whatever sells the most,
Yeah.
right? I think you have to, put a screeching halt on that if that's the way that you and your organization are thinking about what your role is marketing. Um, I think we also need to stop thinking about chasing the customer to interrupt them with a brand message. I think the greatest brands, the most successful brands, are about encouraging people to discover your brand, to discover your company and your products, and to opt into all its different experiences. This is why it's so important to create brand experiences that are worthy of your customers' time.
Right.
If you do that, it's going to lead to much deeper brand engagement, shareability, and eventually it's going to go ahead and build affinity and advocacy over time.
Yeah.
I was reading this, recently. I think, you know, creativity is essential to long-term brand building in B2B, right? It helps drive memorability among customers, which I think within the B2B space is spurring us to reach new creative heights and purpose. There's a growing need for emotion and provocative storytelling in B2B. There's probably just as much, if not more, emotion involved in a B2B purchase than there is in B2C. So I think we have to think outside the box of
Yeah.
our companies to really understand the role that our brands play in not just in business, but in culture and in society as well. The most successful and iconic brands, Casey, are the ones with the greatest sense of self. So, excuse me, with the greatest sense of self. It's a Friday, so give me a little bit of credit here.
Yeah.
the most, let me say that again. The most successful and iconic brands are the ones with the greatest sense of self with how the world sees them. I think the other thing is, and this is the last thing on this, is every brand, and I don't care if you're B2B, B2C, if you're technology, you're packaged goods, if you're a luxury brand, if you're athletic wear, okay? Every brand has the opportunity to tell a story that is greater than the product itself. I'll say that again. Every brand has the opportunity to tell a story that is greater than the product itself. So it's not just a sneaker, it's an invitation to your human potential as an athlete. This isn't just a video conferencing
Right.
platform, it's a portal to more immersive collaborative human experiences. This isn't just a car, it's what's going to unlock the gate to your next great adventure. There's so much more that you can do there, right? There's a light bulb that goes off. People get to see what the potential is of using your products, of being a part of your brand experience. And
Mhm.
so I think that emphasis on creating greater experiences, the focus on really telling a story that people want to be a part of, that they're looking forward to the next chapter and being in on that story, that's what's going to create that advocacy. That's what's going to create that organic shareability. That's what's going to build that affinity. And over time, it becomes repeat purchases, which just becomes another way to go ahead and drive the growth of your business. Plain and simple.
Encouraging discovery. You have me fixated on
Mhm,
that. It's a fascinating idea. I would love that. I would love to be, come. It's like Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory, right? That old movie, and
mhm. Yep. Yep.
he lets the kids into the giant candy room, and he's not like,
Mhm,
okay, first stop in your walking tour of this candy room is the gummy bear tree. Let's all eat some now, right? He was just like,
mhm.
go for it.
Yeah.
Here's the candy room. Go eat whatever stands out to you. And that type of
Mhm,
discovery encouragement seems like the way we should be doing it, but I feel like we do the opposite, right?
Yeah.
You might be in the candy room, but it doesn't feel like it. It feels like you're in school because they're walking you through step by step.
Mhm.
Does this tie back into that same thing we were talking about earlier, where we're we're trying to dictate not only the product, services, and features, but also the path you must take?
Yeah, I think so. And again, I think that there are a lot, not to, it sounds like I've been knocking, the brands for the past 15 minutes that are doing a bad job, but there are so many brands that do a good job of this, right? I think
Yeah.
that those that are going to be successful need to have an authentic sense of curiosity, right? Be willing to test and learn fast, fail fast, and continue to march forward, right? You got to be able to think outside the four walls of your organization and understand the role that your brand plays in business, in society, and culture. I think the more you step outside your comfort zone, the more you're going to learn about your customers, the more you're going to learn about your own brand and how those customers or those potential customers perceive it. I think the more that we take the blinders off and we open up our aperture as marketers, the more we learn and we become a bigger catalyst for growth, not just for the organizations that we work for or the customers that we serve, um, but for an entire industry and hopefully for a culture too. If you want to think
Right.
beyond that, but you got to be willing to take a test and learn approach. You have to be curious about every single thing, ask why and how, about the what's and the who's. You can't just constantly be doing the same thing over and over again. You have to be exploratory
Right.
about everything from a marketing standpoint.
How do you infuse creativity? You're talking about the need is so much greater, or just there's such a need
Mhm.
for creativity, especially in the B2B world. How do you infuse that? How do you bring it
Yeah.
into an otherwise corporate life or an otherwise non-creative? How do you break those four walls of a building?
Yeah, I think one of the big parts of it is, when you go into the room and you're not surrounded by marketers, whether it's product, it's finance, it's sales, think across the entire C-suite. You gotta check your speaking marketer at the door.
Right.
People don't get
Yep.
that, right? We are marketers are a rare breed. I don't care if you're in performance marketing, you're in growth marketing, you're in creative marketing or CRM, no matter what it may be, we are a very rare breed. And we have our own way of speaking about things. But when you walk into the leadership room or into the C
Yep.
suite, you have to be able to build advocacy across the different functions. You have to take a highly collaborative approach. You got to look at marketing success through the lens of finance. What is this investment in brand going to do in terms of our ROI? How is this going to create bigger sales opportunities for our sellers? What does this mean in terms of driving product vision? Right?
Right.
The more that you can get them to see the purpose that marketing serves and what our vision is through their lens, you will build affinity for marketing. You will create bigger advocates. You will be seen much more collaborative, and people throughout the leadership organization will be able or will be more willing to stand behind you. I
Right.
think it's so much about building that partnership, and from there, not that people have their guards up, but they're going to be much more willing to embrace creativity and what the value is that it provides. And there was a LinkedIn survey that coincided with the launch of the B2B line last year that said that 82% of global marketing leaders believe that B2B creative confidence is growing. That means that people are seeing the benefits of injecting creativity into their marketing and being able to to inject that emotional connection between a company and its customers.
Right.
Um, that's a big deal. It's not just a B2C thing anymore. It is very much a B2B. And if you're checking creativity at the door, then you are doing your business a massive disservice and you are leaving potentially millions of dollars on the table
Mm.
when you do that. Because if you're going to sit there and you're just going to, rattle off a bunch of product benefits, well, company XYZ can do the same thing as you, but they've created an emotional connection with me. They've stimulated me mentally. So I'm going to go to them, peace out, company ABC. I'm going with XYZ instead because they get me. That's a big deal.
They get me, and I'm going to them every
Yep.
time. And
Yep.
they don't even need to advertise
Exactly.
because at that point, because they've got me, but they could remind me
Yeah.
about that. But yeah,
Yeah.
that loyalty
Yeah.
starts building immediately.
Hmm.
Let's talk the
Hmm.
transition to the future. What kind of
Yeah.
exciting trends are coming around the bend? You can see them. You're excited to see
Yeah.
what what that will bring.
Yeah. Absolutely. I think creative and creativity is undergoing a massive transformation. I said this a couple of moments ago, right? It's not just for consumer brands any longer, but B2B is coming a long way. I spoke about the Con Lion B2B award that launched last year. I spoke about that LinkedIn survey, right? It's B2B marketers believe that B2B brands are producing creative campaigns that rival consumer brands. But getting back to the creative, it's not just in terms of the ads themselves, but also the way that they're built.
Right.
I'm going to say a big buzzword that everybody's talking about right now: AI.
Yep.
Right? It's here to stay. It's here to
Yep.
stay. There's no way around that. Right? But not in this scary Transformers or Terminator terrifying sci-fi way, right? The robots aren't here to rule over us, at least not yet. We have a long way until that happens. And so I think AI should really be welcomed as one of those tech evolutions that's going to enhance the way that we operate as marketers. Generative AI, right? That's going to play an increasingly important role, not just in terms of how creative assets are produced, but it's going to play an even bigger role in customer service and overall brand experience for the better. I don't think we've even hit the tip of the iceberg on this one yet. I think that there is tremendous upside to AI. It is going to enhance the way that we do business. It's going to enhance the way that we market our brands. And it's going to enhance the connections between our brands and our customers in every way possible. I think this is going to be a wonderful thing. And, I don't think people should be afraid of it. Nobody's losing their jobs anytime soon. You still need people to invoke emotion. That is not something that a machine can mimic. A machine cannot mimic the insights that go into building these sorts of connections between brands and customers. So I think this is going to be a wonderful thing, and we're going to see a lot of great things to come before the end of this year, and most certainly in the years ahead.
Now, AI, I agree. It's scratching the surface. But as an
Hmm.
artist and as someone who brings creativity into a B2B organization, where is that? Is there a tug of war with the tool? Like AI that generates content, um,
Hmm.
does that just replace creativity altogether, or is there a
No,
balance?
not at
How
all.
do you
Not at
how do you
all.
work
Not at
those and
all.
not fight
I
it?
think I, I think it becomes a tool in your toolbox,
Gotcha.
right? You still need a creative director. You still need an art director and a copywriter to articulate what their vision is and to ensure that what AI produces brings it to life. The you might not have the illustrator or the designer there, but you still need people to come up with that vision.
Right.
And AI is there to help articulate that vision, in written or in visual form. I don't think it's a tug of war. I think it's an enhancement to what we are doing, on the creative side. of the business, as well as complementing what we as marketers are trying to do in terms of building connections with our customers. There's no battle there. It's an ally. Granted, it could be an intimidating ally because it's still so new to so many of
Right.
us. But like I said, this isn't here to rule over us. It's not here to take over our jobs. This is an enhancement to what we are already doing. And I think it's going to make our businesses perform better. And I think that it's going to produce more effective creative. And I think that it's going to create deeper, stronger, richer relationships between brands and their customers, hands down.
Powerful. Yeah,
Mhm.
that makes total sense. How you can balance that out.
Yeah. Yep.
And really, my next question for you is like, who are you? Who are you? How do you know all these things? Take me back to little Jordan days. Did you know you were going to
Yeah.
be running global brand marketing for, cutting edge,
No.
brands within a brand, that kind of thing? What was it like?
No, no. So I was really lucky. I think at probably the age of 14 or 15 years old, I knew that I wanted to go into advertising. Here's
Really?
the reason why. Yeah, here's the reason why. I had an aunt of mine who worked in advertising as well. And she was, she and my uncle were the cool aunt and uncle in the family. And so whenever we would get together as a family or we'd see them on the weekends because we lived in the same town, she was always talking about her career. And I was completely blown away by the way that she was talking about advertising. And wow, there's a way to inject creativity in business and create these relationships. There was just something about it that I just fell head over heels in love with. At 15 years old, some kids declare they want to be lawyers or doctors or they want to be professional athletes. I wanted to go into marketing and make TV commercials. Um, I loved marketing. I loved it and I still love it. I've fallen more and more in love with it every day. I think it's the pressure and permission to evolve, the responsibility to take care of the consumer, or your fans, right? If you're in sports and entertainment marketing, to serve with excellence, imagination, and inspiring creativity to create as many connections as you are responsible for driving revenue. There's something that I love all about it. The people, the creativity, just the brilliant and inspiring minds, the
Right.
amount of innovation that comes out from that, the teamwork, the amazing ideas that come to life and just create these unequivocal moments and experiences. I love every single aspect of that. And so, I've been very fortunate throughout my career to have these different experiences, whether it was at 15 years old, where I declared to my parents, I want to make TV commercials. And my aunt, who was, one of my greatest mentors, up until her last breath was, guided me throughout my career. It was one inspiring experience after another. And from experience to experience, I learned different things about people, about business, about the role that creativity plays, the importance that creativity plays, how that really creates a connection between a company and its customers, not just in terms of an exchange of goods or services for their hard earned money, but ultimately the greatest experiences create an enduring relationship that people want to be a part of. It's about telling a story, Casey,
Yeah.
right? Some of the greatest stories in the world, people just want to be a part of. And to be able to do that in business and get paid to do it, sign me up. And that's what I said, as a teenager, sign me up. And so, I went off to university. I studied marketing and organizational behavior, which is a sexy way to say, corporate psychology. Did a few internships in advertising, and then, graduating in the early 2000s, I made a career of Madison Avenue. And that
Yeah.
again turned in from one experience into another. And I've just been very, very fortunate throughout my career to have the right experiences, and it's brought me to where I am. There's still a long road to go, but it's left me tremendously satisfied and wanting to come back for more every single day for sure.
So you've had these
Yeah.
experiences. I've locked onto that word,
Yeah.
experiences, and then
Yeah.
you've gone on to create them. What is it about
Hmm.
creating experiences? And is the creation the part? Is it the part of seeing people go through that and experience what you've
Hmm.
designed? What's the part that
Hmm.
really gets to you?
It has nothing to do with what I experienced, right?
Yeah,
Let's be clear. I'm one person that is surrounded by an army of marketers who are amazing at what they do, whether that's been in my prior roles, agency side, or having gone brand side. Even now, running a marketing organization for Blue Jeans by Verizon, I've been very fortunate in the team that we have put together. It is a small but mighty team of extremely passionate marketers who are experts in what they do, whether that is lifecycle marketing, field marketing, brand and design, global events, putting together experiences. So for me, it's exactly that, what I just said there. It's the experience, right? It is building that story that people connect to, and at some point, that brand story is no longer the brands, it's the customers, it's the consumers. And so seeing that transition where it starts to become this dance between brand and customer to really drive this story. And granted, we are the ones that are building these experiences. We're creating these experiences for the consumers. But the experience that I have with Nike, for example, is going to be very different from the experience that Casey has,
right.
right? I'm a runner and a basketball player, so I lean into those sports. Whereas you might be skateboarding, or you might be, just a casual
Now,
everyday
is this
guy.
an accurate judge of my character? You're saying I'm a skater?
No,
Is that what you're
not at
saying?
all. Not at all. Not at all. Not at all. I don't know. Maybe
I was about
maybe
to be
you're a
complimented, like
six-time
I'm the young
triathlete. Yeah.
Tony Hawk
Yeah.
here. Let's go.
Yeah, maybe you're a six-time triathlete. I don't know, but the experiences that we have with those brands are they're similar but different, right?
Right.
Same thing with
Yeah.
with a product like a video SaaS, Blue Jeans by Verizon, right? The way that I use it on a day-to-day basis is going to be completely different from you as a content creator who uses it on a day-to-day basis. Why? Because of the products that we provide are different for me as a marketing leader as they are for you as a content creator, right? But what we are doing as a brand is we again go back to starting with your purpose and your promise, right? We're delivering on that, and the experience that I have from that, again, it's going to vary from me to you to Bill to Sally to whomever else it might be. So it's not about the creation of the assets and seeing that out into the marketplace. I think that's an output of the bigger effort of just loving the ability to create these stories, to tell these stories, and for people to be as impassioned about those stories as I am, or as my colleagues are,
Right.
and to want to be a part of it. There's something that's really cool about it. So the answer is, I love stories. I love hearing them. I love telling them. And if you can create an experience that far surpasses that and ultimately becomes the customer story, that's a tremendous upside to all of that for everyone.
What kind of stories are you using to create experiences for this brand named after a pair of pants? So we got Blue Jeans by Verizon. So obviously
Yeah.
Verizon is the mothership. We got this pair of
Yeah.
jeans here company. What is it?
Mhm.
What does it do? What's the story behind it? What are the experiences you're creating?
Yeah, I think at the end of the day, the reason why we exist is to create deeper, more immersive human experiences, right? That's what it's all about. It's about creating the tools, building a platform that allows people to connect and learn and share and collaborate, whether you are sitting in your office on Fifth Avenue in Manhattan, or we're sitting at home in Boise, Idaho, and you can still have that experience as if you guys were in the same room, building and learning from each other. Right? I think the pandemic taught us, for better or for worse, that you don't need to be in the same location to share ideas. Right? to learn from one another, and you can do that in real time. And so what we're doing really is we're building these richer, deeper, more immersive experiences that allow people to do all these things that they might have been not have been able to do before because of their remote locations. It's not just about serving as an enterprise tool. There's something that's deeper to that. It's just my team's job to help get that story out there, and to build familiarity and ultimately engagement with the product, which turns into affinity and advocacy, which, like we said, are going to be drivers behind revenue growth.
Right.
Mhm.
Makes sense because if you started talking about the features of this tool, does it do video? Yes. Does it do audio? I mean, there's a lot of these tools out there that will do video and audio. So I think what a perfect person to have in place to then say, okay, stop. It's not about does my video record 1080, and no, it's about the experience and the story and the why that you become a part of if you're
Mhm.
signing on with an app like that. My next question for you here, it's a bit of a hypothetical
Mhm.
because you see, I may or may
Mhm.
not have a time machine here in New Hampshire. So let's
Mhm.
say you come visit, we get some lobster, get some beer, and we go hang out. It's in the
Yeah.
backyard covered in a tarp, right? So we go,
Yeah.
hey, honey, I'll be back. We're going to go in the time machine. All right. And then we're back instantly, right? Because it's time machine. But
Mhm.
so I can't be late for dinner with a time machine. That's the best part. So we're hanging
Mhm.
out. We do this
Mhm.
time machine thing. You get to go meet yourself
Yeah.
early 20s, right?
Mhm.
Maybe just
Mhm.
graduated from
Mhm.
school, you're done, you're moving on to the real world, bright eyed, bushy
Yeah.
tailed. You get to have a conversation with yourself. What do you say? What do you tell yourself?
First thing is get those stupid earrings out of your ear right now because you're going to look ridiculous if you wear them for another minute.
That's funny.
No, that aside, yeah, that aside, I would say I would have told 22, 23-year-old Jordan to embrace the change, because that's the only way to build a successful career is by thinking about your your life as a collection of experiences, or more specifically, thinking about your career as a collection of experiences, as opposed to this is the industry that I want to work in, or this is the category I want to serve, or which marketing roles you really want to focus on. I think if had I embraced that change, um, it has served me well, but it would have served me even better. I spent 15 years in advertising at agencies like Gray and Publicis and BBDO and McGarry Bowen, and then I went brand side over to Verizon. I've worked across B2B and B2C, packaged goods, luxury, sports and entertainment, tech, telecommunications, finance, energy, right? I came to Verizon and I've worked in creative and brand marketing. Then I went into consumer product marketing. And now I'm running brand and demand generation for our video collaboration platform. Very different brands, very different challenges. And there's not a day that passes by that I don't recall what I've learned from my leaders and my mentors at every single one of those experiences. So if I think about that, when I was at BBDO, learning from people like John Osborne and David Lubars about harnessing creative culture,
Mhm.
or when I worked on P&G brands from people as senior as Mark Pritchard about the importance of customer segmentation and retail marketing, or even at Verizon now, right? Whether it was just being in the same room as people like Diego, or Andrew McKechnie, or even Rob Riley, about creating these immersive experiences, and all these insanely talented marketing and creative leaders that I've had the opportunity to learn from and observe. Um, I owe it to something that I've learned from each of those experiences, which with each of those people. Um, and I think that younger Jordan probably would have said he would have stiff armed that,
Yep.
right? But there definitely is something to embracing the change, um, and embracing every single one of those experiences as a collection of experience instead of saying, I'm just going to do TV commercials for the rest of my career. That would have been great. That
Sure.
would have been awesome. But I don't think it would have made me as rounded of a marketer as I am now. I mean, to be quite frank, I've been running demand gen and brand for Blue Jeans now for just about 2 years. Before that, I hadn't done a tremendous amount of B2B marketing, at least in the capacity that I have been doing
Right.
over these past almost 24 months. It has gotten me to appreciate what it is that the not just the seller experience is, but what that deal life cycle is like for the customer on the other end. What does it take for product to drive revenue? What is the role of finance in this? There's greater accountability. There's more skin in the game. And so I think having those collection of different experiences as opposed to focusing on a specific area of expertise or the category or the industry I would have focused on, that's served me tremendously well. And I think that 22, 23-year-old Jordan would have definitely appreciated that advice. Does that make
Would he
sense?
have listened?
You probably would have said, "Who's this old guy that looks just like me?"
You're me.
I think he would have listened. Yeah, no, I think he would have listened because
Yeah.
here's the thing. Like I said before, I've been very, very lucky from an early age to have a collection, not just of experiences, but of
Yeah.
mentors who may not have directly taken me under their wing the way that first mentor did, but uh, indirectly from a distance mentored me, and I learned from. And from that, I've created my own style of leadership, my own style of thought and strategy, and what brand is and isn't. And now I'm passing those lessons on to the people that I manage and that I mentor. And I think that's probably one of the most rewarding things in my career, to be honest with you, Casey, is to have had those experiences and to pass those lessons on to a future generation of marketers
Right.
and to see what they do with it. So it's been
Yeah.
pretty cool.
Mentorship's powerful.
Yeah,
Powerful. Do you
it is.
where do you find time? You've been creating art for a long time. Do you still find time
Yeah.
to create? And what are your favorite mediums to work in?
Yeah. Yeah. So it's funny. So that piece of me really just it was always there,
Right.
right? I mean, I was in advertising for 15 years. I don't care where you sit in the agency or where you sit in the world in general. I believe that everybody is creative. It is not just for artists or musicians or anything else. Everybody is creative. Creativity is not limited to a visual or an audio or a written medium. There's creativity in science. There's creativity throughout all of life. You just need to find what it is that you're talented at and really tap into it. So I was always a creative kid, right?
Yeah.
I think that's one of the reasons why I went into advertising, and I knew at 15 years old that I wanted to go into advertising. Um, and being surrounded by such talented minds who had inspired me for decades, and to really explore and play with it. That's something that came about probably about 4 years ago, just before the start of the pandemic. And I remember we were renovating the home that we live in now, and my wife and I were walking through these different art galleries, and the pieces were stupid expensive. And I was like, we're not ready to do this. We can't afford to do this, but I can do something like that. And so it was literally just sitting down in our basement, taking this old tool room and converting it into a small artist studio and just experimenting and learning, right? I go back and I talk about those collection of experiences and learning from every single one of those. It was the exact same thing with my artwork. And what's come of this is this really unique blend. You asked about what mediums I work in. It's this really unique blend of contemporary street art, I guess you can
Sure.
say. And so it's mixed media. It's an amalgamation of acrylic, spray paint, oil pastels, um, you know, house materials,
Hmm.
vintage newsprint and magazine
Wow.
print, It's a mixture of the past with the new, or the present. And yeah, it's cool. I think that it's good to have that creative outlet because it allows me at least to work through different challenges, different things that I'm playing around with for work or that I'm trying to think of. And sometimes some of the greatest ideas that I have for work come out of what I'm trying to work on downstairs in my studio. Um, it's something that was a hobby that has turned into a small um, side hustle. I will always be a marketer. I will always be a brand guy through and through. I am so far from becoming the next Banksy. But it's it's pretty rewarding both in terms of what I've been able to create for so many people, but also the lessons that I've been able to gather from it for myself. So it's been pretty cool.
Plot twist: you are Banksy, and
Yeah.
this is your cover.
This is my big reveal right here.
Yeah, yeah,
Hey,
yeah.
world.
You heard it here. Yeah, the clickbait will
Yeah.
be all over YouTube. Watch this
Yeah.
episode to
Yeah.
find out. Um,
Yeah. For
man,
sure.
great stuff. So many things there.
Yeah.
The creation. Uh,
Hmm.
Final question for you around that: do you have a favorite piece you've created, or are they all kind of your children in different shapes and forms?
I think you love all your children for different
Right.
reasons, right? I wouldn't say that there's one piece per se that I am head over heels in love with. I think that some of my earliest work, which you can probably actually see
Yeah,
right
right
there,
behind you.
it's that Derek Jeter piece right there. That was one of the first pieces I ever created. And if you look closely at it's very rudimentary in terms of how it was put together, and the style of it versus something that I do today, which is another piece that's
Oh
right
wow.
here, and how it's evolved. I love both pieces equally, but for different reasons, right? There's a journey that has gone from Derek Jeter circa, late 2019, early 20 to Michael Jordan circa, July 2000, 2023. Um, the- they're different parts
Yeah.
of the story of me as an artist, along with the dozens of other pieces that I've created in between. And like I said, there's no one piece that stands out. Even the worst pieces, I love just as much as some of my greatest creations. I can tell you about like what some of my greatest achievements were, and those definitely stand out. Whether it's was creating a massive 8 foot wide piece that is with a collector down in Miami right
Wow.
now, to being recognized in the press for some of my work, and people who are pretty senior in advertising and marketing, being completely shocked when they find out that I've got this side thing going on, and they're like, if I had known that, I would have hired you as my creative director instead
Right.
of being my client. Um, but there's a really special connection that comes out of
Sure.
it when you create these pieces, whether I was paid for it or not. Um, there's a connection that I have with every single person that has a piece of artwork hanging in their home or their office that I made for them or that they purchased. I actually had somebody reach out to me a couple of weeks ago. I had donated a piece to an auction. Turns out she was a huge Bruce Springsteen fan, and she found me over Instagram, and she was like, "Hey, the lucky recipient of this piece of work. I absolutely love it. Thank you for creating it. Um, how do I hang it in my home?" And so we've gone back and forth talking about the different ways, and so there's a connection there. We never met. I didn't get paid for it. She won it in a charity auction. Um, but there's a special connection there. The same thing goes for the pieces that I've created for my loved ones. There's a story behind those, and it's a story that's between me and the person that hangs it on their wall, as well as those people that might pass by wherever it's being hung. And that's really, really special to me.
It's so amazing that she didn't
Yeah.
even pay for it per se, but she won it,
Yeah.
but she treasures it,
Yeah.
right? And sometimes
Yeah.
well, it was free. No, this is really cool. How can I
Yeah.
display it? How can I have the scene in its best light and share this with other
Yeah.
people? It's something about art, and the fact that you share it. Would you
Yeah.
say it's intrinsic to it? I mean, some people squirrel away their art in a closet and it's just for them, but a lot of
Hmm.
it's shared.
Yeah. Yeah. Um, is it intrinsic? I would say, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, that might be too, it might be a little lofty of a word, but look, there are still those pieces where you can't put a price tag on it
Right.
because they're so meaningful to me, and that is something that I will hang on to. And hopefully someday, if I'm a grandfather decades from now, that's something my grandchildren will see and be like, yeah, our grandfather created those and now they're
Yeah.
hanging in our homes. There's a story to that. There are other pieces where it's just like, all right, that this isn't necessarily something that I have any sort of emotional connection to, but it's something that means something to you as a collector, and you commissioned me to do that. And so there's a story there, but it's a story. There are different stories that are there. There's the story between that piece and what it means to that collector or whomever was the recipient that they were giving it to. And then there's the story between me, the artist who created that piece, and me, the artist who created it for that person, and what our back and forth was, what our interaction was, how we created this piece together. Because I think that's one of the things that is unique about me as an artist when I am commissioned. It's something that I create in partnership with the person that has asked me to do it for them.
Yeah.
It's not just my vision. It's this is what they are looking for, whether it's a certain color palette or a certain subject, or they're creating a really unique piece for somebody to celebrate their graduation from college, and they went to this school, and there are all these different things that are integrated into it. There are other pieces that it's just I look at it, it's like that's a cool subject. I want to do something around that. I'm actually doing that right now for someone. Well, somebody, it's a surprise for them, but it was just, I know that means something to me and to them. I'm going to do something for them. So I think that there are wonderful stories to be told in everything. It's just not a brand thing, right? It's just not a creativity thing.
Right.
It's all of it. And so as an artist, to be able to have those stories with those people, and it's not just me who created it. I created it with all these people. Um, I love it. I love it. It motivates me. It gets me excited every time I walk into my studio and I start something new. So kind of very similar, not kind of, but very similar to what I do as a marketing and as a brand leader.
Yeah. Creating those campaigns in your art room.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Jordan,
Exactly.
this has been so cool. Where can people connect with you
Yeah.
if they want to reach out, talk art, talk
Yeah.
brand?
Yeah. Yeah. LinkedIn. You can find me on LinkedIn. It's, well, I'm sure the
Yeah, we'll
details
put it
of
right in the
my
show
first
notes.
and
We'll
last
link
name will be
people right
here.
to it.
Okay, cool. If you want to learn more about me as a brand and marketing leader, you can go to jordanliebman.com.
Okay.
And then on Instagram, if you want to see any of my artwork, it is not the best name, but I'm going with it. Jordan NYC underscore art. So JORDAN NYC_ART. And you can see pretty much all of my work there.
Heck yeah.
And then some.
Cheat code
So
unlocked. We find the art page.
yeah.
That's what we're talking about here. Cool.
Start with LinkedIn though. That's the best way.
Yeah.
That's where it really is to learn about me professionally. So
Awesome. And then if
yeah.
people want to get the stories and start and
Mhm.
experience the experiences, go through the experiences when they want to explore blue jeans, where should they go? What kind of things should they do?
Blue Jean, bluejeans.com. Bluejeans.
Wow.
www.bluejeans.com. And you can sign up for free trials of a few of our different products, which are pretty awesome. So people can go there to learn more. about who we are as a brand, and the portfolio of products and services that we offer in helping to drive, like I said, deeper, more immersive human connections.
There it is, dude. Thank you so much for
Cool.
coming on here. This was
Thank
a
you. This has been awesome.
powerful, powerful
Yeah,
convo.
this was a blast. Thank
Crazy,
you.
crazy, man. And hey, for
Been a
those
pleasure.
listening, if you learned something, and I freaking know you did, because I literally have 2 pages of notes over here, front and back, then share this with someone. Even one person. Share it with one. Who's that one person that needs to hear about story, needs to hear about experience, that can infuse that into their marketing, get this information in their hands. With that, Jordan, thank you again, sir.
Thank you, Casey. It's been a pleasure.
All right, everyone. This has been a crazy cool episode of the Hardcore Marketing Show. We will see you all next time.